We are less than 1 week away from the 2-episode premiere of Dexter Resurrection, and we just got a brand new interview with David Zayas, who plays Angel Batista, with GQ Mexico, where he revealed some exciting details about the new series, so let's get into it. I'm Pamela, welcome back to the channel. So in this interview with David Zayas, he reveals a little bit about what it's like to play Batista for the past almost 20 years, and he does reveal whether or not Batista truly knows the truth about Dexter. So if you want to avoid spoilers at all costs, this video might not be for you, but you know, it was revealed in an official interview with GQ Mexico, so if you're curious about what he had to say, we're about to get into it. So when it comes to returning to the world of Dexter and this new version of Angel Batista, David Zayas said, "I've always hoped to return. I was surprised and not surprised because there's still so much to say in this story. How often do you get the opportunity to make a series over 20 years, playing the same character? We're lucky to be able to do this. It's unbelievable that I could come back under these circumstances with the knowledge the character now has. It was fantastic. I was happy to come back, and I jumped right into the role. When something is in your system, it's in your system. I did it for 8 years. I didn't know how it would feel to return, but I dove straight in. It's incredible to deliver that same performance from the beginning, but with this new information and situation." He also talked about how Batista has changed. He said, "From the start, back in 2006, I always felt Batista lacked cynicism. He always saw the positive side, striving to do what's right and not cross certain lines. Over the years, as he's lost people and faced difficult situations, he's lost some of that. But if you're a homicide detective, you're surrounded by death. You have to deal with it professionally. What neither I nor the writers wanted was for Batista to lose that sense of shock at death. He's always felt loss deeply. As an actor, it's incredible to work on that." So it really is crazy that he's essentially been playing this character for 20 years, and I do agree, he always lacked cynicism. I always say here on the channel that Batista really is this positive character. He's this pure and innocent character, and I love that about him. He always chooses to see the good in people, so I do think it's going to be interesting to see how he approaches Dexter with this new information that he is the Bay Harbor Butcher. And now when it comes to whether or not he actually knows Dexter's secret, that he is the Butcher, I've kind of been wondering if he believes that when we first see him in Resurrection. Because we know at the end of New Blood, Angela tells him that Dexter is the Butcher, and then he's on his way to Iron Lake. So, you know, we assume that he's going to actually find out the truth. But in the full-length trailer, when he finally comes face to face with Dexter, and he says to him, "Chief Bishop thinks you're the Butcher," the way Angel says it kind of seems like he doesn't really believe it. Like, it kind of seems like he's thinking Chief Bishop must be crazy, and that he doesn't necessarily believe Dexter is the Butcher. You know, he chooses to see the good in people. Dexter is someone who was his good friend. He was very close with him back in the day. So when we first see Batista in Resurrection, is he going to believe it right away? Or is it something that he's going to gradually start to realize throughout the season? But in this interview, he talks about how Batista has evolved and whether or not he knows Dexter's secret. And he said, "I needed not to interpret him as he was in 2006. It's important to understand what's happened in between and what he believes now. All that informs his decisions and actions. He's no longer the Batista from 2006. He's based on his new life experiences, improvements in his work, and new challenges. The question is, how did the whole Dexter situation escape him? We need to answer whether he didn't want to see it, deliberately avoided it, or just wasn't aware. Sometimes people close to you have secret lives you don't know. This is an interesting concept for today's Batista and how he reacts. He still tries to stay within boundaries, but now there's a different outcome, especially knowing who Dexter really is and knowing he has to prove it. He's also in a different city. He doesn't have the same authority as in Miami. He has to figure out how to operate in New York to serve justice." There's a little bit more to this interview that we're going to get into, but I will just chime in to say it's interesting. He is pretty much confirming that Batista does know that Dexter is the Butcher. He says, especially knowing who Dexter really is and knowing he has to prove it. So we do have confirmation that Batista will finally believe that Dexter is the butcher, but we still don't know exactly when. Like I said earlier, does he believe it when he first comes face to face with him in the hospital? I'm kind of thinking that when they first come into contact, he might not believe it right away. But then once Dexter escapes the hospital, which we saw in the trailer, then he's going to finally believe it and be like, okay, he's clearly guilty because I said to him, Angela thinks you're the butcher, and then he flees. Like, clearly that is super suspicious. And obviously, Angel does have all of LaGuardia's files on this. LaGuardia was adamant about Dexter being the butcher. David Zayas goes on to say he's seeking a smart approach. Both know what they know. They know each other. Both knows the other knows the truth. Batista must find a way to enact justice. He knows he can't confront Dexter directly or attack. That won't work because he needs proof to present in New York. Batista must be cautious. But there's also affection. They were friends and worked together for years. And Batista spent 10 years believing Dexter was dead. All that has changed how he approaches things. He's trying to find the legal, correct way to deal with Dexter Morgan. Every surprise is welcome, especially in a series I like watching. The more surprises, the more interesting the series. There are surprises the audience will see that Batista doesn't know, and even Dexter doesn't. Dexter has the advantage of voiceover. The audience hears his internal monologue, Batista doesn't. He doesn't have that, so he must unravel things on his own. That's another thing that's interesting. The fact that Batista doesn't have the same authority in New York as he does in Miami. So, I mean, clearly this is going to have to be handed over to the FBI. But I'm sure Batista will be working with the FBI to enact justice on Dexter. And like he said, there's also this affection towards Dexter. They were friends and they were colleagues. So it will be very interesting to see Batista sort of struggle with this, because he loved and trusted Dexter for so many years, spent 10 years believing he was dead, and just the fact that Dexter does kill evil people, you know, he doesn't just kill innocent people, but Batista's a rule follower. He believes in doing things by the book, doing things legally. So obviously, Dexter being a murderer, even if he is killing other killers, it's not legal. So I think Batista's really gonna have this internal conflict. And then in this interview, he goes on to talk about whether Dexter is truly a villain. He says, I don't view it as hero versus villain. I try to see the human behind it. If I find sensitivity or compassion even in the villain, it's interesting. Especially with villains, you have to find their cracks, what makes them human, if they have love in their lives, understand why they're violent. I try to do that to render characters fully human. It's important not to box them as villain. You dig deep and find the facets that let us connect. Dexter excels at that. Michael C. Hall does it so well. He tells the audience what he's feeling without judgment, and people listen and follow his vision. That's a great concept. And then he goes on to talk about Harry's code that Dexter lives by. He says the audience hears Dexter's moral code, but characters don't. If you ask me if what Dexter does is right, I'd say no. But when I see the dynamic between him and his father, how his father taught him the code, I always wonder, if I found out my son was this type of person, how would I react? Would I turn him in, arrest him, send him to the hospital? These are complicated questions. It seems easy from the outside, but when it's your own family, you look for a way to help. That doesn't make Dexter good. I don't know if the code justifies what he does, or if it's a way to avoid getting caught, maybe both. But I think he has a conscience. He tries to justify what he does via his father's code, and what his dad taught him growing up. I can't judge it black and white. It's a gray scale. So yeah, like I said earlier, and sort of like David Zayas said himself, I do think Batista is going to struggle with what exactly to do with Dexter. He does say that what Dexter does isn't right, but he can't judge it black and white. It's a gray scale. So yeah, I thought this interview was very interesting. I just thought I would share some of the highlights with you guys. Like I said, less than a week until the premiere. I'm so excited. Get ready for nonstop Dexter content here on the channel. Definitely going to be doing weekly episode breakdowns, recaps, reviews, theories, predictions, everything Dexter. But what do you guys think about this interview? And how do you foresee Batista dealing with Dexter? Is he going to immediately try to take him into custody? Is he going to try to find him and hear him out a little bit and talk with him? Is he going to ultimately let him escape? Leave a comment down below. Please also give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and make sure you turn on all notifications so that you don't miss out on my Dexter content during the entire season of Dexter Resurrection. Please also go follow me over on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and I will see you guys next time.